Hi. Oh, so I'm okay. I was reading a text. So when it comes to chapter 6, skin, I would say that in this chapter so far, basically what Bernard explores is the reality of her daughters being in a brown body but black in America, and the conceptualization of what it means to have an American identity and not have American identity, especially for the girls being Ethiopian. In this process, she talks a lot how it feels to be who is someone who is darker skinned in America and what it means to perform as someone in society of a darker skin color. More or less being chastised or criticized, or in this aspect of feeling you have limited freedom to express yourself for the fear of being seen as other or as aggressive or simply as anything that is not who society expects you to be. Specifically, Bernard contextualizes through her daughters, Julia and Isabella, as they're growing up and just wanting to be free and doing things that she as a child was told she could not do. And Bernard finds herself combating that trauma she experienced, of having to be held back in order to survive. And the way she explains all this, or that she tries to relate to it, or to like break it down, is that because of her husband John being white, the girls are seeing a different perspective of what it means to grow up in America that is not traumatized or traumatizing, as opposed to Bernard's background. And I would say that the way that Bernard doesn't really structure this one like too like uniquely. It's just her flow of conscious as she's experiencing and relating through it. She sort of starts off talking about like her daughters and everything. When she had this interaction with Megan, which is like this daughter of Tom's work coworker, and she like has this conception of like how this white body is not afraid to interact with her, but that's because she's never been told not to do something like that, and she's very just childlike about it. She's exploring, she's curious, she wants to see what this other person that does not look like me is. And it's not in an invasive means of investigation, it's in a curiosity of joy. Um, and this is oftentimes what we see in society is like when someone asks you a question about your identity and it doesn't relate to the topic at hand. And oftentimes that's intrusive and it's invasive, as opposed to this instance where it's a child who's just curious about someone who doesn't look like them. So yeah. And so like we start off with that, and then like Bernard says that she went on this trip, and then basically she comes back from the trip because she was like, I just needed to be around people that look like me, to refresh herself and to like remind herself who she is, like at deep down. But yeah, that's like highlights or like the quick snippets. But going from there, from like D to I, and now going into E for evaluation, um, I would say that in this personal aspect, I talked a lot about this like in the like the last EDLP or diet or not EDLP. That's different. Whoa, trauma. I talked a lot about this in my last diet response and stuff like that. Um, but like for example, I grew up in a very like whitewashed household. Um, my mom is very whitewashed. She is Hispanic presenting, but she acts as if she is an older white woman. But she only hangs out with white women. She will refer to other Hispanics as that are not like adhering to like certain traditions as being ghetto. She does not how to interact with black people. My like in this one example, like my brother who has a very close friend who's black he grew up with, um, she said, "What's up, brother?" And we're like, "Mom, no, no, you don't. Why would you do? You don't know him like that. You don't know him. He's your son's friend. What? No, don't do that." Um, and so like for me and everything, I've had to learn exactly like who I am and what my ability to do things are and what they aren't, just through experience, and then like just like questioning things. And so like I learned a lot through like intrusive stares and people telling me indirectly what you can and can't do. For example, I was a very chubby gay child, and with that I assumed that I could not have the same freedom as kids that are skinny. Like, so I had to wear jackets. I had to hide my body. I had to do things that were hiding who I was in order to feel safe. And like that's just like a tiny snippet of it. That's nothing compared to like what Bernard like analyzes, but like that's like one other way perceptualizing it, I guess you could say. Because of like our outer appearance and the way we perform in society, in essentially is just like how society will interpret you, and therefore they're like, now we can judge you and label you. When we can label you, that means we can discriminate against you. Um, so yeah, but going into like the theories of it, I would say that in this chapter specifically, more so going back to like the bottom up, Bernard is really much like pulling on to like Lingerler's and Peterson's bottom up approach of the narrative by returning to her own body and the body of her children, and John's, and conceptualize them and how they interact. Understanding that they may not be a traditional family. She may not be able to apply everything she learned as a child to her children, but she can learn from her past in order to help her, Isabella and Julia, like, learn what they want to be. And there's this, like, one quote that she actually has in here. I haven't quoted from the book yet, so I figured it would be, like, a fun thing to do. Specifically, she says that race was trauma and color was beauty. So in this, we've reminded that like race in of itself is a social construct, but the color or the melanin of someone's skin is beautiful because it's natural. Race or categorizing people as a race is not natural. The means of labeling in society is a construct of itself. There is no reason we have to have men and women. It can just be individuals who engage in different things. We don't need to have people determining what genders are or like labeling someone like, oh, that's this body, that's this body. They're just bodies. We label bodies in order for us as individuals to feel more comfortable, because when you can label something and identify it, therefore you are no longer afraid of the unknown. But bye.